Hey y'all, welcome back to Poplar Creek Farm. I am so excited. We are officially less than a week away from our estimated last frost, but, big but there, don't be fooled. So if you are, like me, getting close to your estimated last frost and you're seeing lots of plants in the big box stores, you think, wow, I can start planting. I can put my tomatoes out, I can put my peppers out, I can put cucumber seeds, squash seeds, beans, corn, everything, right? No. Just because your estimated last frost is a certain day does not mean that that gives you the perfect 100% yes, go ahead and plant. You really have to look at your 10-day forecast. And even with that, kind of take it with a grain of salt, because as I'm sure you know, if you have been a gardener for any amount of time or just watch the weather, it changes really frequently. So our estimated last frost is next Tuesday, May 11th, but we are still having nights into the low 30s through next week, through next Friday. So I am not putting anything out that is not frost hardy, because although it may say 36 one night, it could easily dip down to 32. And it's not worth risking frost tender crops, putting them out if, there's the potential for another frost. So I will keep an eye on my 10-day forecast. And when I see that the nights are consistently above 40, I will consider sowing seeds for cucumbers, beans, corn, things like that, and consider putting my tomatoes out. I will wait to put my peppers out until I see nights closer to the 50s, just because they're a lot more frost tender. Peppers like heat, and if you don't give them heat, they can be stunted. So do not be fooled by the big box stores. And I mean, even I can even say this for myself. So I sell seedlings. We sell tomato and pepper starts. And although not this coming weekend, not Mother's Day weekend, but the weekend after, starts the United Market, and that's when I will start selling my seedlings. That does not mean immediately go and put them outside. And I will explain that to people who purchase them, that until you look at your forecast and see nights above 40s and 50s, it's just not worth the risk. It's not worth losing a plant that you've spent money on, or seeds that you've spent money on. Although seeds maybe not quite a big deal, especially if you have a pack of say 25 seeds and you're only sowing a couple of them. Not the biggest deal, but it's still something that you're losing. You're still losing some of your seeds. You're still losing something. So for some people, the risk is worth it, for sure. I understand that, whatever, if I lose a couple seeds, not a big deal. But for somebody who's maybe going to be easily discouraged, not worth it, because that discouragement can be really difficult. So I will not be sowing anything outside probably until at least a week after my estimated last frost, unless the weather significantly changes, which I don't see happening. This is upstate New York, zone 5B. The weather stays cool for a long time sometimes. Sometimes we have years where I could probably plant on May 1st. But there's years I can't plant until Memorial Day. So, I really, really keep an eye on it. And I have seen going to the big box stores over the weekend. We went to get some apple trees, things like that. I actually got my mom for Mother's Day. My siblings and I all went in on some blueberry and raspberry bushes. And those are fine because they're going to be well established. And even if, the blossoms freeze, it's not a big deal because you don't intend to get fruit the first few years anyways. So, but when I was going there, I was seeing a lot of people buy starts. Now, some of the starts are fine. You can buy brassica starts. You can buy broccoli, cabbages, cauliflower, kale, spinach, even some lettuces are really frost hardy. And those are fine. But they're also putting out there with those the tomato and pepper starts and the eggplant starts and the cucumber starts and those. And I'm like, no, not that you can't buy them. There's nothing wrong with buying them, but just don't put them out in your garden yet. And actually, I went one day and then we actually went the next day, and there had been a frost overnight. And, they had covered everything with frost fabric, but you could even see a lot of the plants were damaged. And that's one of the things that I'm sure the greenhouse has taken into consideration, the risk of selling plants in areas like this early, is that you could potentially lose a lot of those plants or have them be really damaged. But it was a significant amount, even with frost fabric, that was damaged. And so it's just, I mean, unless you have frost fabric in your garden, and even with frost fabric, you can still end up, with damage. It's just not worth the risk. Don't buy into, if you see it in the big box store, you can plant it out now. That's not the case. There are certain things that are totally okay to be planted. Things that you can sow right now. So seeds you can sow right now are peas, beets, rutabagas, kohlrabi, cabbages, broccoli, kale, cauliflower, chard, spinach. Those are all seeds. Brussels sprouts. Those are all seeds that you can sow right now, and it's totally fine. Or start the plants. Have started plants for. Carrots. Those are seeds you can start right now and are going to be totally fine. And it's actually really good to start them right now versus waiting. I have cat hair on my nose now. It's going to itch the whole time I'm here now. Oh, whenever I pat Hunter, his fur just like fluffs up. But yes, there's a lot of things that are totally okay to sow. I mean, I've had for a few weeks. Onions, that's another thing you can put out, onion sets. You can actually sow potatoes now, even. Your garlic obviously should have been sown in the fall, and it's established now. And there's even some flower seeds that are okay. Calendula does well in the cooler weather. I'm trying to think of all the flowers that do well, but there are some. There's some herbs that do okay. Obviously, cilantro does well in the cool weather, but there's some that don't do well, and you have to look at what the ideal temperatures are, ideal soil temperatures, and if they're at all frost hardy, because again, we are definitely still well within the risk of frost. Last year, I believe we had snow. I have a picture of it, actually. We had snow on our estimated last frost. And it stunk. I was very upset. But 3 years ago, when we were in our first house and I planted my first garden of my own, I planted it early. I planted it before actually, I think I planted everything on the day of our last frost, because our estimated last frost, because I was so excited and I honestly didn't know not to. And it was a warm year and everything was fine. We had no issues. I didn't have to cover anything. Last year, I waited at least a week, maybe a week and a half after our estimated last frost, and it had warmed up, and I still had times when I had to go out and cover things. I had to cover my peppers. I had to cover my tomatoes. I had to cover those frost tender things because we had cool nights. So not worth it. Not worth the risk. Not worth all the hard work that you have put into those seeds, those seedlings, the money. It's just, in my opinion, it's not worth it. Maybe for experiments, it's fun to try, but if you actually want to get harvests, don't do it yet. Obviously, if your last frost is weeks ago and it's been warm, sow your garden. But here in upstate New York, we are not sowing our gardens yet. Not even close. Probably at least another 2 weeks, maybe 3, maybe closer to Memorial Day this year. We've had a pretty cool spring and it's been very wet and gloomy. I am going to start hardening off my pepper and tomato plants next week. And so that process, there's a couple ways to do hardening off. And the way I choose to do it is if I don't have a bunch of overcast days, which it doesn't look like I'm going to in the forecast, and I don't want so overcast where it's like pouring rain. You kind of want to either just cloudy or sunny, because the cloud with heavy rainfall, if it's a sprinkler or mist, that's fine. But if it's a heavy rainfall, it can damage your plants. So you put it out, like I said, it looks like it's gonna be sunny for me. So I'm gonna put them out an hour the first day, and then I'll bring them back inside. 2 hours the second day, bring them back inside. 3 hours, back inside. 4 hours, back inside. 5 hours. Typically I do that for about 5 or 6 days, adding an hour each day, and on the last day I will leave them out for a full day, and at that point they're pretty much acclimated and good to be outside. So I'm actually going to start on Sunday. Although our nighttime temperatures are not warm enough for them to be out, our daytime temperatures are. Our daytime temperatures are above 50. So I will be putting them out not in the, early morning hours. I will be putting them out midday to late afternoon initially. And as the week goes on, I may have to put them out earlier, obviously, to get the full amount of time. But that's how I'm going to do it, so that I'm not shocking my plants, and I'm also not hardening them off enough that they are safe to be outside. Because if I am selling plants, I want them to be plants that I know are going to be okay if somebody puts them in their garden, other than if it's a late frost, because that I have no control over. Hunter, you just want to be on YouTube? You just want to be a YouTube kitty? He's really just like obsessed with getting attention and has zero boundaries. But guys, I am also really excited. So we finally, out in the country here, have Wi-Fi. I'm so excited. So this entire time, I've always uploaded my videos using my cell phone data. We have unlimited data on our phones and have had that because we don't have access to Wi-Fi. Oh, it's hair. But recently, our state has tried to increase broadband internet to more rural areas. COVID kind of pushed that because kids were home doing school virtually and needed access to internet. Now, I was fortunate. We held my son back. He didn't go to kindergarten. He will actually go directly to first grade. And so we didn't have to deal with the virtual internet and having to figure out internet. But because of that, they did expand, and we have internet on our road finally, and they just installed it today. So I'm hoping this video uploads 10 times faster, because typically it takes me an entire night to upload a video. So we'll see. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I will keep you guys updated on the forecast and when I'm going to be planting my garden. Also this weekend, I will do it'll be a abbreviated garden tour, but I'm going to do a garden tour, the first one of the year, because I do have stuff to show you and it's doing really well. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Remember, we're growing today for a better tomorrow. Please like and subscribe and join me on the next one.